Hello, everybody. Welcome to. Well, the world needed another Formula One podcast. So, Alex, my co host, my name's Dan. I make cricket content. Alex is Alex, and he works in cricket and he likes Formula One. So, we thought the world needs another one. So, we got another one, and it's called the Lapdown Podcast. Alex, that was a terrible introduction. How are you, mate? You're well. Just say some words. Say some words. It doesn't need to be good,
you've covered it, haven't you? Because I think the big gap in the market that we've identified is two white blokes having opinions on things, and that opinion now is an ill-informed one on racing cars. But hey, we'll see how we get on. We'll see how we get on. But no, I think we both got to the same conclusion, didn't we? That we like F1, but we don't necessarily have a huge amount of mates that like F1, and we would like to be able to talk more about F1 and share terrible takes on F1.
Yeah, and I haven't got to the stage in my life where I'm prepared to create like some kind of Charles Leclerc Stan account and make TikToks of me gooning over the monogas.
You're going to get a box of like 48 Tic Tacs now from the Tic Tac people.
Please,
so just dropping brand names. How are you already dropping brand names, hoping for freebies on episode one of the pod?
It's so ingrained. All I'm going to end up doing here is looking like a 1995 Benetton. Though that's going to be the issue. I'm just going to be covered in Tic Tacs, not TikToks, Tic Tacs. And yeah, as I say, I'm not prepared to kind of do those, so I don't like them. Yeah, the name's good though. Lap Down.
Name's good.
Took ages to come up with it.
Too long, because apparently every other name is already in existence. We kept going, well, hey, that's a good idea for a podcast. Oh no, someone's got it.
Already taken. Do you know? I've got a really good. I've got a nice little kind of tag for why we've called it that as well. I haven't consulted you with this.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I don't really care what your opinion is on it either.
It's official. It's happening.
I think it's strong, right? So basically, Lap Down, because essentially we're about 2 years late starting a Formula One podcast. It's not particularly deep. This kind of meaning behind it, but I think it's about as strong as we're going to get.
Yep. No, I'll take it. I like it. Lock it in. Write it down.
I haven't got a pen or paper.
Rian, get it on the artwork. That's a note for Rian.
It's the Lap Down because we're 2 years late. I don't know what we're going to call it if we ever suddenly catch up with some of these buggers, though.
Unlapped. Job done.
Oh.
There you go. Rebrand. Someone get the domain name. Reagan, get the domain name now.
This is why you're part of the team. This is why you're part of it. You come up with the great ideas.
So we should do a little F1 intro each, shouldn't we? About where we come from on this journey. You're a Mercedes fan, aren't you?
No, not really.
You're not? I thought Mercedes were your boys.
No, not really. I just like the GOAT. I like the GOAT. I like the 8-time world champion. AB.
Fine. So you're Mr. Seven as opposed to being Mercedes.
I would say so, yeah. And I would say being a British person, unless you're kind of low-key racist, I think it's really difficult not to be a Lewis Hamilton fan. I think there's corners of the pockets of the world that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, and I think we can maybe save this for another episode. But I mean, achievements alone, take your hat off to him and just say this is mental. And essentially, my later years of Formula One, I've kind of developed and grown up with watching him win things. And as a British man, watching a British man win things, we don't do that very often as British people. So it's quite nice to see someone do things well. But originally, Williams, and probably still Williams, to be fair.
Okay, little underdog story. No, I can get on board. I like Alex Albon. Alex Albon's a good egg. I'm a papaya boy, only because I like the branding. You can tell that a lot of our chat, to be honest, is going to be me coming in from a sports media background. So settle in for some branding chat, team, and some PR hot takes and my opinion on socials. But no, I liked the branding, which is how if I'm coming in new to a sport and I have no other point of reference for picking a team.
Yeah.
So I'm a combined Miami Dolphins and LA Chargers fan, which is two just very different franchises, just because I enjoy the Chargers rebrand with their Bolt thing, and I like the color scheme of the Miami Dolphins, and that's what I had to work from.
Nice.
And it's probably the same with McLaren, and then I'm obviously a Danny Rick stan because you have to be, and now we've got Oscar, so it's perfect. So I will defend Danny Rick constantly on this pod, and I will take no words against him.
Okay. I mean, I quite like him anyway, so I don't think you're going to take a huge deal of flack from me about it. But it must have been kind of difficult being a McLaren fan and a Danny Rick fan during that period of your life, because that never really worked for either party, did it? And you were kind of sat on the fence, getting splinters up your ass, kind of defending Danny Rick for being a good Australian human being and defending McLaren for being your team.
Yeah, and that was me. Like, because I will put my hand up and say that I am a DTS boy. So I have been in F1. I came in quite hard into it, to be fair, but from sort of like 2020, that's where I pick things up. So I've gone back a little bit, and I've watched. I've not gone back, but I've gone back to sort of maybe the mid 2010s and caught up a little bit through some of that. Yeah. But yeah, so I came in, picked McLaren at the time that they just decided to be terrible at F1.
And the cars look pretty. So
the cars, wonderful orange cars. Yeah. So that's where we've got to on here. But I also just like the sport, and I'm not anti Red Bull, but at the minute I don't want Red Bull to win, just because in any sport where I don't really have a completely vested interest, I would like competition. And there's nothing I would like more than us having 10 different, manufacturer wins in the first 10 rounds of the 24 season, because I don't really care. I'd take that over 10 McLaren wins, and I, like McLaren, because it probably means that I've had 2.5 hours of good telly on a Sunday. So,
over the 10 races?
Yeah, very short.
As Crofty's gone, it's lights out and away we go. And once they've all got past the first corner unscathed, it's like, oh well, that's good.
That's our finishing order.
GG's Lando, well played, mate. Lovely job. See you next week. Off to Bahrain, and we carry on. Yeah, I'm interested to hear that. I must admit, obviously, we haven't known each other for that long, but we've known each other for I reckon for getting on for about 1.5 years now. But obviously, spent quite a lot of time with each other over the summer, working in a completely different sport. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were a DTS boy. I didn't know that was your kind of baptism into the sport. And I mean, Williams for me is the reason why it's there is not the underdog story, as to which you just said. Clearly they are now, and I mean they're doing a really good job at getting pumped on the Formula One grid, aren't they? Had some good people at points, like you throw back to Maldonado in that crazy win in Catalonia, and they've had moments, haven't they, in recent time where you've kind of gone, have they turned a corner? No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They've gone
one quali session. Everyone's like, ah,
exactly. But I've watched Formula One ever since I can remember. Like ever since I was, honestly, I couldn't tell you a point that I can't remember it. I think, but I can't remember. And this is a bit hazy because when Ayrton Senna passed away, I would have been 3 years old. I think I would have been 3. And obviously being such a fan, I've watched so many documentaries, so many stories, so many movies, so many things about Formula One of that era that I can't convince myself whether I was sat there watching Imola in 1992 when as a 3-year-old and I can remember it happening live, which would be quite impressive if I did, or whether it's just because I've kind of watched so many documentaries and stories about it. But like going further back, like my first kind of thoughts was that kind of Schumacher Hill battle, the Williams Benetton. So at that point there, I mean, Williams weren't the underdog. It was the classic. It was the same again for the Lewis Hamilton thing. The British bloke was doing well, and I supported the British bloke. And also going down the branding route. I mean, how fucking cool did those Rothmans Williams look back in the day? Like they were absolute sex on tires. They were. How we're going to talk about liveries, but how on earth have we regressed? I know you're a McLaren boy and you like papaya, but my word, the Formula One cars look crap compared to what they did in the 90s.
When graphic designers moved so much further forward as well from the 90s as well, everyone else's branding and design, and Photoshop has done wonderful things. But yeah, we're gonna dive into liveries, aren't we? That's because we figured we've got no F1 to talk about really, because we're coming out to the end of the off season. We're clutching at straws a little bit in terms of going with episode 1. So we thought we'd go through sort of livery guesswork, I suppose, on what we think we're going to see from each team. McLaren are kind of spoiled that because like 2 days after we said, hey, episode 1, let's talk about what we think the liveries might be. McLaren decided just to throw theirs around. But I think that's the plan, isn't it? We'll go through what we're looking for this year. There's obviously a couple of not new teams, but new identities to consider in there as well.
Yeah.
And I'll say from the start as well, the idea with Lap Down is we're going to have some horrible takes and opinions, but we would like to hear yours as well, and we would also be quite happy for you to tell us that ours are invalid. So get in touch. The concept is if we're going to parasocially have friend group chats about Formula One, you can be part of that as well. So we'll run through at the end the different ways you can get in, but Lap Down Pod essentially on everything. If you go and type that in somewhere, you'll probably find we've got an account there, and we'll get the notifications if you want to send us something. So You can email lapdownpod@gmail.com, or you can go and tweet and Insta and TikTok and all the rest of it. But if you've got takes or stuff you want us to consider, or thoughts or grievances you want to air, it's a community platform. We're providing a service here, aren't we?
Are we? I thought we were just doing it because we wanted to.
Well, yes, but we wanted to do the service.
Yeah, no, but that sounds way better. Just talk about the liveries instead, because I think your little intro there about that was amazing, and then you've kind of gone into the providing the service, which was it was garbage, wasn't it? At the end of the day, it was a lie, complete fabrication of the truth. Why did McLaren just kind of throw that curveball out there with that livery because it's that one time a year, isn't it, that everybody starts going, things are starting to defrost a little bit in the UK, and the Formula One's getting closer. People start talking about it again. They're like, it's only 73 days until the first Grand Prix, and people start getting excited, and it's like, the Haas livery's coming out on this day, and the Merc livery's coming out, and then McLaren just go, I just want to see the car then.
There it is. It's orange.
Yeah, here you go. Do you think that might be because they've done absolutely nothing to it?
Yeah, but then they're also doing a launch, aren't they? Which is the other weird bit, is that at the end of having launched the livery, they went, by the way, we'll see you on the 14th because we're launching the car. Like, but you just launched the car.
You've done it.
So I assume we're actually going to see a real car from
we'll get an invite.
Well, I assume we're going to see a real car on the 14th now as well. So that's interesting because they can't do a livery reveal, surely.
Could they not just stick a couple of stickers on the old one?
Well, that's what they've done so far. Stuck it in a fake wind tunnel and they're off and away. So that just works. I mean, there's Twitter had a theory. Well, I say Twitter had a theory. Twitter and TikTok had a theory. Are you familiar with the Lando Bath rubber duck situation?
Not immensely familiar with it, but I have heard of it.
So there's a theory that they perhaps slid the livery announcement forward over the top of that bubbling rumor in an attempt to counteract said rumor and go, don't look at that, look, the car's orange. Look,
so what's happened in a bathtub with a rubber duck?
There was
allegedly,
whether or not it's just TikTok stand stuff, but I believe there were some screenshots from a couple of years ago. Whether or not they're legitimate or not, nobody knows. Where Lord Lando was being a 21-year-old athlete, and perhaps being aware of the advantages that may come with being a 21-year-old high-profile athlete, should one wish to change one's relationship status or otherwise.
Gotcha.
So I think there may have been some sliding into DUMs and etc. I mean, it was all entirely above board from the, you take these very hyped up screenshots with very large handfuls of salt. But there was, he was shooting his shot and shoot your shot, don't you? So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, he ended up dating a rocket for a while, didn't he? So
yeah. And is again, I think, the Scandinavian one this time. So he's sort of working his way around.
What did Michael Jordan said something along the lines of like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? Kind of sounds like Lando's kind of bought the same thing. And I mean, if there was a rubber duck involved and maybe actual little Lando was there, then I can understand why people have got a little bit like, maybe not the best PR. Have a look at a car instead.
Yeah. It might also just be a complete coincidence.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, it's the first thing I wrote down is what's with the shadow drop of a livery. I don't hate it as a concept. Like, do we need a 4-week build-up to see that the Red Bull looks exactly the same as it did last year? Like, just get it out there. They've made 26 Instagram posts of the car since. I went through and counted. I mean, they're filling airtime with as many angles of the car as you can get. So, I mean, they've filled the content calendar. That's one way to do it.
Would you be... I mean, I like the idea of them pulling the old curtain down on the car, though, and it being something completely different to what it is that we've seen so far. And just everybody at McLaren just goes, got you.
There you go. I mean, the livery itself is fine, isn't it? It's objectively fine. It's last year's livery. They've taken the blue off. They say, I think there's more papaya on it than black, but it certainly looks more black than it did last year.
Maybe it's on the inside.
Yeah, just inside the foot bay, which will get that pedal camera, so it will show up then. Yeah, but I mean, look, they've got the most sponsors on the grid now, so they were never going to do anything particularly designy because it's all about them logos, isn't it? So Yeah, hey, as a McLaren fan, it's fine. I'm happy enough with it. I think there is probably enough papaya. The front wing helps. That being papaya now instead of black, at least from your onboards, you'll probably see a little bit more of the orange than we have done before, and the layout's fine. I mean, it's something
10,
that will
out of 10, it's a 6, isn't it? At best, it's just like meh.
yeah. Look, it's
right.
a 6, and maybe at night races it'll be a 7 because the orange will pop a little bit more. You know?
Maybe a little bit of chrome on there for a bit of shine.
Well, the numbers are in a weird font, but silver and a chromey, so they're gearing up for it. But do we need to talk about the amount of black that's going to be on these cars this year as well? I know it's the constant thing of should the FIA mandate like a percentage of the car has to be non-black or non-bare carbon at least, and has to be wrapped, because there's got to be legs in it. Surely there's so much black in these liveries now.
I guess back in the day, I guess the liveries were almost designed around branding and around a sponsorship. So the colorway of a car quite often actually then represented the brand that was being sponsored. So the Rothmans Williams, for example, if you went and bought yourself a packet of Rothman cigarettes, they would be blue, white, gold with a bit of red on there. So it was essentially a racing cigarette packet. The same with Wests when they sponsored McLaren. Ferrari obviously always different. They were sponsored by Marlboro, but actually always had that racing color of red. Who else am I thinking of?
Look at the golf livery, that when the golf livery keeps coming back as well. I mean, that's just golf branding on a car, as it just happens to be a very nice colour scheme.
Exactly. You're running around in a petrol station, essentially, is what's going on. And that has kind of changed, doesn't it? Because you just mentioned McLaren have got the most sponsors on the grid, with the exception of Red Bull, who are pretty much a one-sponsor team. Everybody else is like head to toe in stickers of various different things. Like the drivers walk around now looking like a business card, covered in Excel spreadsheets and .com logos and everything like that. So I guess it does become really hard to do it. But on the flip side, it doesn't make me any less disappointed when you come around to the car launches and, as you said, we've saved ourselves a couple of kilos because we've not used any purple paint on this year's car and we've just got bare carbon fiber. Maybe they could. Would the FIA, would it even be worth their time? They got bigger things to think about, haven't they, than making sure people paint their cars pretty colours?
Yeah, you'd think. But at the same time, it's probably not hard to flick an email around going, oh, by the way, lads, here's TD 14.1A that says, bare carbon's off the menu, and no bare carbon may be visible on the exterior of the, chassis or whatever. But I mean, it's, at the end of the day, I don't feel as strongly about it as maybe some others do. I think they've found decent ways of working it in, and they're almost designing the liveries around the concept of bare carbon now. But, it would be nice. 2020 McLaren was very orange with like that blue sort of pixel pattern coming from the front. You think that you get some more opportunity to mess about with color then, but look, we'll see. They'll be black. We know they're all going to be black. It's going to happen.
Then again, we've got content going forward, haven't we? Because Dan and Alex post Dulux paint bots to 10 Formula One teams is a title, and that works. Write that down. That's going to be that works.
In the notebook.
Scribble it down. Anyway, right. So the launches. We've got Haas first on the 2nd of February. Sauber, or whatever the hell they're going to be called, depending on where you are in the world, on the 5th of February with Williams. Alpine on the 7th. Christ knows how they've come up with the name of visacashapp.rb.com/Red Bull Racing on the 8th of February.
About that.
Aston Martin on the 12th, Ferrari on the 13th, Mercedes on the 14th, Valentine's Day cute, and Red Bull on the 15th. Can we skip through? Like, Red Bull's going to be the same. I can't be asked to talk about it. Move on.
But here's the thing. Because I wrote that. My first note says, why even discuss? Which is true for a lot of things to do with Red Bull. Fair play, Max Verstappen, you're an incredible driver, and Adrian Newey is a freak, but why even discuss Red Bull? They've got this 20-year thing, and a lot of their teasy stuff for this 20-year branding has a lot more of the Red Bull yellow in it. Now, I'm not suggesting they're going to go yellow, because they would never. But it's 20 years of Red Bull racing this year. Are they cooking something?
No.
No, they're not. Move on.
What I think they'll do is they'll go, this is our 20th anniversary. Here's a Twitter poll. You can vote on a livery for us, like you have done with the USA and this, that, and the other. And essentially what will happen is the car is exactly the same, with maybe a star on it somewhere.
Little side.
And they'll go
side
Texas.
pod. Yeah. I thought maybe a testing livery. They could go all out in a testing livery to kick off the 20th year and then back to the standard one. But the font as well, by the way, the font needs to get in the bin. I hate it.
Oh, terrible.
What is it? Why is one letter? Stop. It's horrific. It's horrific. And
like in a world of precision, how did it ever get through any kind of quality control as well? Surely
also,
somebody's looked at it and gone, it's not even the same size.
Great. Yeah. Like, and go look at, if you look at the Checo birthday post, the R is taller than the rest of the letters. Yeah. And that really bothered me. It's like 2 pixels taller for absolutely no reason.
We wouldn't be that happy as a driver if your front left tyre was twice the size as your right one, would you?
For a sport that's so based on precision, get it in the bin. In the bin. There it is. That's going to become a thing on this pod. Me putting things in the bin. Alex's bin.
Ferrari.
Make it happen.
Red.
It's going to be red, isn't it? They get it. Every year it's weird with them. They almost get a free pass on liveries, and everyone just accepts that the livery is going to be red, nothing more than red. Crack on.
True.
Which
they have been in Formula One since the very, very beginning, though, and they've embraced red, and they've kind of owned it, though.
Yes, but you can do bits with red. It doesn't just have to be flat red. Give me a little bit of wabbada wabbada. That's what I want.
Do you think, though? Do you not think there's just something really sexy about a red Ferrari? And to the point that I think you should probably be locked up for war crimes if anybody buys a Ferrari that isn't red.
Go the red, absolutely, and go heavy red. But give me some speed lines or something. Sure.
Okay.
I can have a speed line or just a little thing. Just a nod that we've tried. We have a graphic designer on the staff, and he did something on one day of work last year. That's all I want. That's all I want.
A nice pinstriping or something.
Yeah, just a nice little yellow pinstripe down the side. Just a little bit of detailing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll buy it. McLaren, I think we've done.
McLaren, we're done.
Is there anybody else in that list that you kind of look at straight away and you just go, it is going to be what it is, and we'll just move on? I can't see Aston Martin doing a great deal different from the British racing green.
But again, Aston almost get a pass because their green is very pleasant. I like that British racing green. I think last year's livery was actually very pleasant with the sort of tennis ball coloured yellow pinstripey thing, which is what I want. That's a great example. That's what I want from Ferrari.
Okay.
You know, Aston have gone, our car is green. It's a very sexy green, and here's just a little bit of spice, a little bit of something on the top. But no, I was quite happy with it. They can do what they do. Alpine are going off the rails so far on social with this pink camo thing. There's no chance they run it.
No. Well, only if they've got BWT as a sponsor for the entire season.
Yeah, or I mean, I figure it's either going to be a testing livery. It's just complete social media waffle as a tease, and then they're just going to go, oh, it wasn't camo after all. Look, here's a livery. Or it's going to be like the BWT first 3 races thing again. But, I mean, I'd love it if they went all out. At least it would be different, but...
I think you said at the start, like, it's not going to make the racing better. It's not going to make the sport, like, infinitely more watchable. But as, like, a 1%er, I think it is going to make... Like, the day that you wake up at 4 a.m. to watch a race somewhere in the world, or you stay up late, or wherever you are in the world watching, but I think it will make just a marginal difference to your enjoyment levels if there is, I don't know, just a bit of vibrance going around the track, just to keep you engaged, you know,
wake you up.
And then, or you're sitting there going, is that Mercedes that's gone past, or no, actually, I think no, from a distance, actually, no, I think that might have been. No, that might have been it wasn't the Aston Martin. It was the Haas that. Hang on, Crofty. Oh, it was the Mercedes.
Crofty's got it wrong as well.
No,
so.
Yeah, exactly.
But Alpine last year as well, I can't remember what his name is, and I will apologise for that, but their graphic designer was very vocal on his own socials, and I think a bit on Reddit in the build-up being like, oh, we're going Vaporwave, it looks incredible, it's the best livery I've ever made, and then they released it, and it was a trash non-Vaporwave sponsor-riddled thing, which I think will probably happen again, that no matter what intentions they set out with, they'll design, and it happens with all of them, doesn't it? They'll design a really cool livery, and then they'll go, oh, but we also have to make 35 sponsors really legible on this at 200 mile an hour, so it will get pulled back.
And ultimately, as you said, actually we can strip off 35 grams of paint on this, and it's going to go quicker. And that's ultimately what they're all there for, isn't it? And to be fair, some of the cars that have turned up and run around the back of the grid, you could put 2 tons of paint on it, it wouldn't make them any worse. But yeah, Alpine be the same. Is there any Mercedes like black or silver?
So I had written that exact question. What do you want as a sort of, you know, by secondary association Mercedes fan? Would you rather see Lewis cutting about in a black one or a silver one?
Well, they've been flapping more than a pigeon down on Brighton seafront, haven't they, lately? With regards to, we've had a really successful black car. We're going to go back to our roots now. We're going to make it silver. Actually, the car's shit, so it could be the paint that's the problem. So we'll change it back to black, and the cars continue to be pretty. Well, to be fair, it's got better, hasn't it? But I mean, it was pretty ordinary for quite a long period of time in relation to these new regulations. It depends. It depends. If the entire grid is going, we're just going to play it really safe. Give me a silver. Give me the shine. Give me the chrome. Give me the nice little bit of teal on it, and maybe the black detailing.
I like the Peronis teal. The Patronus teal. I like that. It's a nice colour. That.
Give me some of that. If everybody else is going jazzy, one stealthy ass like B-52 US Air Force bomber type thing looks cool as shit on the racetrack. And again,
some Petronas steel speed lines down the side of that. I think they'll go black because I don't think they can afford to go silver.
Well, I've heard you never go back once you've been there. So
well, you know, but if they can get 1%, as you say, they were climbing last year. They were getting better. They're not in the Red Bull position at the minute of it doesn't matter. We'll put twice as much paint. We actually put 2 coats on. You know, I think they have to be making. They have to take those performance opportunities, and if it's, you know, half a tenth a lap or whatever insignificant margin it is, they are considerably more than that away at the end of last year. So why would you not take it? I can't see them doing anything else. I think Kick, Hibbity Bibbity, Stakey, Saubery thing.
All them, yeah.
They're my dark horse for a livery.
What are you going to call them, first of all?
Kick.
You're going to call them Kick?
I'm going to go Kick because I think they're going to be Kick in more races than they're going to be Stake, because they're legally not allowed to be Stake in most of them, and Stake feels a little bit odd. At least Kick racing, you know, here comes the Kick. It just feels a little bit... Again, and this is my DTS-ness, I have no, you know, I've got nothing in the Sauber game. You know, I have no sort of knowledge or affinity with the Sauber brand, so it doesn't bother me in that way. Kick, fine, I'll run with it. I think they'll pull out the biggest, like, they'll drop the best livery of the year, because I think they, at this point, are they Kick for 2 years and then they're Audi, or is there a chance that Audi will sit under the Kick, or we don't know, I suppose.
I mean, who's worth more, I guess? Is it Drake, or is it the VW Audi group? I guess. I suppose ultimately you enter yourself into Formula One to sell road cars, don't you? And I don't see a streaming platform suddenly making many road cars, but then I never saw a bloke who owns a social media platform do that either. No. So maybe we're going to get Kick hybrids or I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
The Kick branding is strong.
Yeah, I think they've got a real chance. I think, and I probably will continue to call them Sauber just because I'm an old man and old habits die hard. So I think they've got chance. I think the reality of the situation is it's black with probably a bit of like fluoro green on it.
Yeah, I think they'll go quite heavy on the fluoro green, and I think they'll go pixely, because that's prevalent across the Kick branding and also lends itself quite easily to a car. That I think it will be similar to what we saw on that 2020 McLaren, where it will have like a, you know, lime green arse that will pixelate itself into the front of the car being black, or vice versa. I think we'll see something like that. They have to, I think they have to go really rogue on a livery. I don't think they can afford to turn up with, you know, the black Mercedes having the teal Petronas stripe. I don't think they can recreate that with a green stripe, because if they're going to win anyone over, they have to win over that fringe fan or that 10-year-old that is getting into the sport and goes, right, which car looks coolest? That one does. Yeah. Which team's that? I'm that. So I think we'll see. I think they'll pull it out. I think they've also got enough designers around that are almost non-F1 designers. Yeah, so they've almost maybe year one got a little bit more freedom of like, right, we're going to design a really cool car and then make the sponsors work on it, rather than these more oiled, units of, right, we're going to design a car with the sponsors on it and then make a livery work around that, I think they'll be inverted year one. I think by year two, if it goes all right, you might see it flip back. But I think they've almost got they've got a free hit year one, I think.
Good and valid points. And if they turned up with a lime green car, yeah, they'd win me over. Like, I'd be much more inclined to say that I don't think this car's shit if it was shiny and colourful.
And Valtteri be in there with his mullet, and the vibes on that are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Speaking of vibes and green men, RB Visa Cash App Bulls, don't say Racing Bulls. They're not the Racing Bulls.
No?
VCARB.
Pardon?
They're not the Racing Bulls. VCARB is what they're called.
What is that?
Visa Cash App RB. VCARB. It's how they refer to themselves internally.
Do they?
Yeah.
It sounds like they've got bigger issues to sort out rather than what colour they're going to paint their car, to be fair. But
RB is not Racing Bulls, apparently. RB is just a short way of saying Red Bull because they're trying to merge them even closer. So they are the RB.
Yeah, I don't. That wasn't very well hidden. AB, I have to say, it wasn't exactly the most disguised, discreet thing of all time, is it?
The chat originally was that they were going to go Racing Bulls, which I actually will admit I don't hate. This is something that we discussed briefly, and at the time said, let's save this chat for the pod. But it's very American, which is what they're obviously trying to target. But the concept that you have, like the Wyoming Running Bulls, or it's very college sports team to go. Let's pick an animal and a descriptor. Okay, bull racing, and then stick whatever sponsors you want in front of that. I get it. The name is stupid because they've lost the Racing Bulls. I think if Racing Bulls was in there, the name is actually less stupid because it then just becomes Aston Martin-like or Mercedes-like or it's Oracle Red Bull, but no one laughs at them for their team name actually officially being a sponsor, and let alone the fact that Red Bull's an energy drink. But I think they probably not helped themselves with. They could have come in a bit more under the radar with it, I think, had they have had a vaguely sporting brand or a potential sporting brand attached to it as well, and then slapped as many sponsors as they want in the name.
I think my issue with it is, and I don't know how you feel about it. Obviously, we spoke a little bit about engine notes, didn't we, the other day, and about the fact that obviously the V10s were quite erotic for a lot of people compared to what we have now with the V6s. But when it comes to motorsport and all different kinds of motorsport, not just Formula One, but I always find it quite a sexy sport, if that makes sense. Like it's fast, it's dangerous. Like the people doing it are ripped to absolute, like within an inch of their body, like they are stacked human beings.
You're talking about Toto, yeah?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
You throw back a little bit further, you genuinely do have that actual sex appeal when you've got to some of the racing drivers, and you see some of the guys like James Hunt, and you see Ayrton Senna and people like that, and they're good looking people. They do cool things. And I think at the point you just stick some crappy company over the top of it that literally no one cares about. No one cares about banking. It's just something that you have to have. Yeah. It's a bit like paying your tax at the end of the year, isn't it, really? It's like no one wants to do it, but you know you have to. But actually, Ferrari's that's a bespoke product. That's something that you have to work really hard for, or get lucky, or save for, or whatever it might be. That's exotic. That's flamboyant. That gives you the fizz. Whereas like MasterCard, Visa Electron, PayPal, it's just like, well, it's just a facility to help my life kind of exist. And to be honest with you, I kind of feel that's where that team's going to go down. In terms of a livery, how much they've sold out, for all I care and for all I think, it'll probably just be a big QR code that will just run around on the track. That, ironically, you can scan on your smartphone whilst watching the race, and it brings up a special camera. And actually, it's got a link on it, and you can send £10 to the Visa Racing Bulls Cash App account, which will then give them more money to spend on obnobs at the main team down the road at Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I think it's, as you say, it's a necessary evil, and this is where I can't switch off my sort of sports media-y head on it. That they probably don't care is the other thing. People, the attachment, the emotional attachment that supporters have and fans have of the sport and of other teams and whatever, they're going to see it in a very different way. I don't think there would really be any sort of temperature or sentiment analysis going on at Red Bull about how the name was received, because they don't care. And if they didn't have to have the RB in it, they probably wouldn't have had the RB in it. And I think that's probably only there to tick a box with the FIA about entrance requirements that you must have a team name or something like that, because it's going to do what they need it to do. It's given them a lot of money, and that's as far as they need it to go. I can't see anyone buying merch of VCARB. I don't really know how many people bought merch of AlphaTauri outside of Japan because they're buying it for Yuki.
I think it looked good, though, to be fair. I think AlphaTauri gear looked
the branding was
good.
And, I mean, it should do, bearing in mind that AlphaTauri is literally a fashion label, so if they couldn't have got the clothing merch right, we are in all sorts of strife. I went into an AlphaTauri shop once in Austria, and
expensive?
I looked at one rack and I walked straight back out again. I will not pay €480.
The Australian walks in the shop and went, I'm going to come out looking like Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, no, I'm not.
Aye.
But, however, if you'd have had a VCARB RB credit card with only 3.4% APR on it, you could have bought yourself a T-shirt and you might have paid it back by now.
Still wouldn't have. What's interesting is all their branding, and again, I'm going back to branding chat, and you can settle in for this because branding chat's going to be rife all through the year. They are leaning very heavily into like core Red Bull blue, which Red Bull Racing actually doesn't do. So I think there is a chance that livery ends up looking like a sort of prime era Toro Rosso Red Bull can livery, because they've been running that sort of more royal, brighter blue on all of their marketing stuff so far. The logo's that color. They did that weird shrink wrap puffer jacket tease video on Insta the other day that had a load of pink and lime green accents. So I think they might be one that goes rogue as well on the livery, because I think they're a year one team, and they probably need to try and win someone over by having a cooler livery on the grid. I think they've got a bit of an opportunity there that people are gonna stop laughing at VCARB and stop talking about them and mocking them. You know, any publicity is good publicity and all that by Bahrain if they just come out with a plain blue livery. So I think they probably need to push that boat out to stay relevant, I think.
Okay, yeah, I can buy it. I mean, I won't, but I can buy it.
They'll sell it. You won't be buying it.
No, correct. Is it just Williams and Haas left?
Just Williams and Haas, who I actually think Williams are slightly underappreciated for liveries in the last couple of years. I think they very rarely miss with a one-off livery. I thought what they did last year was nice. The Silverstone one last year was nice. The Golf livery was good.
Yeah.
And I think they do a nice job. The Duracell tie-in is the best bit of sports marketing on the grid by some distance. They do nicely what I would like to see from your Ferraris and your Astons. They have their core colour. It's a very British blue car.
Yeah.
But then there's just a little bit something rumbling underneath. There's a couple of tones on it. There's a pattern of some description just to make it interesting. But yeah, I think they're never going to go too rogue with it, I don't think. I expect we'll see another Golf livery this year. But I thought they were fine last year. I think they'll be okay this year in P16 and 17.
Maybe 15 on a good day with a tailwind downhill, but I think they're like throwing back when they were so iconic, when it was the Rothmans one, when it was the Cannon one, probably not so much when it was the Winfield one in 1998, because that was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. When it was partners up with BMW, it was essentially a sponsor car, wasn't it? As I said earlier, the colours on the car represented the colour of the brand that were getting behind Williams at that point. And they did, as you said, with what they do now, they did a really, really seriously good job at incorporating that into their colour scheme. Do you know what? I agree with you. I'd love them just to kind of go, we like golf.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Yeah, have it.
Keep our little battery on the top.
There's enough other dark blue teams on the grid as well. A light blue team would stand out slightly more. I'm on board. Right to them. Make it happen.
Deal. Done. Sorted. Haas.
It looks like one of the default options in F1 23. It's perfectly fine. It's inoffensive, but if there was an NPC livery, it's an NPC livery.
Yeah,
and I
think
expect
that's
it will
fair.
be this year. It was better without the Russian flag stuff. Like last year's NASA version was better,
Yeah.
just as a a color scheme. I expect it will look exactly the same this year. I'm not sure they've got a designer on the staff, so I don't expect much from them this year on track or in livery or off track. To be honest,
No, I mean, Gunter never came across as the most flamboyant bloke in the world, did he? As brilliant as he was, so maybe the new guy that's coming to take over, maybe his priority is the design. I mean, as America's team, and bearing in mind that what are they called, Chase Carey and I don't even know what the company is that he owns, but anyway, they're trying to like desperately get this sport over in the States. They seem absolutely besotted with the idea of it has to be popular in the States. They've already got NASCAR, that's good, that's popular. They've already got IndyCar, that's good, that's popular over there. But no, they need another one, and we need 9 Grand Prix in the States. I feel like they should be doing a lot more. They've got a massive kind of opening there. And to be honest with you, if they overspent on a budget because they made it look all stars and stripesy and 4th of July with fireworks and eagles and burgers and stuff like that all the other Americans like, and racing horses like Mustangs, I think the FIA would just turn a blind eye on it. They go, oh, so you overspent by £1 million? And they'd go, yeah. Well, what do you overspend it on? Well, we made it look like a McDonald's restaurant. And they'd go, nah, that's fair. That's good for us. That's good PR. America's team, we're going to get American people buying American T-shirts with stars and stripes on it. And it could be good, but it's likely just to kind of be exactly the same as what it was last year.
Yeah. Weirdly as well, it's Williams that have their livery launch in the States I think at a Puma store, I think I read. But they're
moved
launching
from
in the
Umbro,
States.
haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as they're not Castor, that's all that matters.
The 1990s England shirts down in the Williams store. They've moved on to Puma now, so what a time to be alive.
Step forward, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, look, for me, my 2 dark horses, I think Kick are going to do something cool, and I think the VCARBs have to do something cool because they've got to win some sentiment, and I think their only way to win some sentiment is to put Danny Rick in a very sexy car that people might look at that are new and think, yeah, well, that looks cool. He's fun and that looks cool, that car, so I'll go with it.
Nice. Well, I see your dark horses, and I raise you what I think will probably be the best liveries that come out. And one will be Aston Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other one... I mean, Christ, they're all pretty bland, aren't they? I'm going to go with you. I reckon Sauber, Kick, Drake, Racing.com, I think is going to be the other one. But I think Aston Martin is going to be the one that's like James Bond.
Yeah.
Just
who was your livery of 23?
Who was my livery of 23?
Not looking at
the
one-offs
specials
or anything like that. Core livery. Who was the best on the grid for you last year?
Wow. That's like asking which one of your legs you want chopped off, isn't it, really? I quite liked the metallic-y blue on the Alpine with the little bit of pink. It was quite nice. I thought it worked quite well. But again, it's a stretch to say it was my favourite.
See, I have a slightly rogue opinion on it that I actually quite like the Red Bull livery. I
think it's just so used to it, though. That's the issue.
I get why they cop flack, because it has looked exactly the same since I've been watching F1, which I appreciate is a shorter space of time. But at least it's a nice livery that works well. It's not particularly flamboyant. Sure, they could do a little bit more with it, but it's good. And, fair enough sticking with it. It's good. You could probably do a little bit more, but I actually think it's quite a pleasant looking car. And I thought, Williams were all right last year. I didn't mind the Alfa Romeo last year, to be honest with you.
No, it was okay, wasn't
it's dead, obviously, but I didn't mind that as a car. But
no, I tell you what though, good strat by you there. Just to get a few RB fans on board, on the Lap Down pod, just to kind of give them a little, just to give them a little pat on the back there, just a little nod to we like you guys too. It's a nice strat. It's a nice strat. It's a 10 out of 10 play.
They do cop some flack because it doesn't change, and they probably rightly so don't do a big expensive livery where it sounds like your host says Daniel Ricciardo and them reveal the same car.
Yeah.
But the car itself looks cool, and the bull coming out of the into the roll hoop and whatever, cool. It's
nice.
It's there and it's fine.
Solid. Are we done with liveries?
We're done with liveries.
Amazing.
We're done with liveries. We'll loop back round after.
I don't want to talk any more about AlphaTauri.
Well, are we talking any more about it?
No, they're done, or whatever they're called now. I don't want to talk about the racing bulls no more.
That's it for this year.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, unless Ricardo wins a race, I think we're not talking about them again. So, and I mean, but yeah, how many people even use Cash App?
A lot in America, because they don't have, and we're not going to get into like my country's better than your country, but you can't do bank-to-bank transfers in America. It's not a function.
What?
So I could send you £20 right now.
That'd be lovely.
And it would get to you now. And
yes.
It's there, and it was free for me to do that because it's 2024 and our banks can talk to each other.
Yeah.
Not in America.
Oh.
That's why you have to have... All Cash App is our British banking transfer system, but a little bit longer with a fee.
Right.
It's mad. It's why stuff like Apple Pay transfers and PayPal and all that are so much bigger over there, because you have to use them to send money to friends or pay people back or whatever. So that's why it's big, because if you think how many like direct debit or not direct debit, like direct transfers happen daily in the UK, Cash App are doing that and just skimming a little bit of your money off the top. Well done.
Brilliant. And they've wasted it all by buying a shit Formula One team.
And now they've bought a Formula One team.
What have we got left?
Madrid.
The Madrid circuit and the fact that Lando. Sorry.
This is going to wind you up, Madrid, isn't it? I feel like we're going to get a bit of grandstanding from...
I don't know. Lando signed a new contract, which possibly makes him a one-team driver for his career, which could be really cool.
I like it because I think it's smart on both of their parts to get it done before silly season starts. I think let's just not play in that game. Why bother? We're happy. You're happy. Okay, maybe there's 10% more to be had for you to move somewhere else. And okay, it's costing us a lot of money, but McLaren have the most sponsors on the grid. Zach Brown is an incredible commercial chap, has done wonderful things with the sort of off-track side of it. He's been very good at McLaren. McLaren is showing a very good trajectory. You never quite know when a new year starts. The new car might be a donkey again, but everything is looking up. He's got a good partner in Piastri that is going to bubble up for a couple of years and be a good team man, and then they can, do a Bottas and Hamilton, or which one of us is going to win. The story's there. I thought his answer the other day, again going sports media-y, that was it Craig Slater that basically tried to put words in his mouth about being scared of Max or whatever, and he went, well, no, so, but it's, why put yourself in that situation? It's a very established setup. It's not necessarily built around Max. We know Albon said that that's not really a thing you can do, but you go to Red Bull now and you're the number 2 driver. You're maybe even the number 3 driver. I'm not sure they have a number 2. I think Max is driver 1 and Verstappen is driver 2 at Red Bull, and then everyone else is also there. So I think it makes sense to me. And I think all of these contracts are going to have performance clauses in them. They're not dumb enough for it not to, I'm sure. No. If he wants to go somewhere else, they'll find a way to go somewhere else. So
well, of course, that's the other thing as well. If Red Bull come knocking on Zach Brown's door and they say there is kind of truth in this rumour that Max might just turn around and say, nah, I've had enough now. I don't want to do it anymore. And they need a Lando to lead their team. On that long contract, that suddenly puts Lando's price up again, doesn't it? So
I wouldn't be surprised if that was a sub-clause privately, or if these conversations have already happened and that there is this unspoken pub agreement between Zach Brown and, Horner or whatever, that, hey, if this happens, here's what our offer will be. Would you open the door? Would you meet with us? And it's going to be a yes or no. And it I'm sure those things would move surprisingly quickly if Max decided to bin it off. Because as you say, if you're McLaren and you can meet the budget cap for the next 3 years because, you sold your driver like a commodity.
Yeah,
then
100%. 100%. I mean, everybody wants to drive for Ferrari, don't they, as well? So that's another team that potentially has an awful lot of clout to turn up and say that you've driven for essentially the best Formula One team that has ever existed. Madrid.
Yeah. Listen to the tone of your voice change when you say that.
This isn't exclusive to Madrid.
No, we should
just
say
don't-
that from the start. That I mean, I've been to Madrid. It's a very nice place.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to watch the football team. I've had some tapas. I've had a beer. The people are all right. The underground thingy works well. The Castle Palace thing's quite pretty to look at from the outside, and it's quite cold in the winter because it's quite high up in Madrid, which is quite misleading for Spain because you think it's quite a hot place, don't you? But actually, it gets a bit chilly up there in Madrid.
Don't want to race on your roundabouts.
I just don't like street circuits, mate. I don't. There's no, and I know I'm looking at this as a man who's watched this since I was like 2 years old, and places like Catalonia has been around as long as I have. And when you think about Formula One, I think about Silverstone, I think about Hockenheim, I think about Spain, I think about Monaco, I think about Spa, and I think about those places, and I think about the people that I watched growing up, and I guess ultimately I'm thinking about the nostalgia, and I'm thinking about the history, and I'm thinking about the fact that Fittipaldi raced here, and I think about Lauda raced here, and I think about Jackie Stewart raced here. And you just rip it up, don't you? You rip it up and you plonk it in the middle of a car park. And as it turns out with Madrid, I mean, they're racing around the back of warehouses, for goodness sake.
Yes.
Like, I mean, if that doesn't suit a Visa Kick RB Stake.com cash app racing car type thing, where the name looks like shit and it's not sexy, and therefore the scenery looks like shit and it's not sexy. I mean, hopefully they've cleared all the pallets and the cardboard boxes out the way from the loading bays around the back of it before they start herring around there. But what's the point?
And Vegas, okay, it maybe wasn't as eye-catching as all the marketing was going to lead you to believe, because there's a lot of catch fencing and tech pro and everything in the way.
Yeah.
But the helicopter shots, very impressive. Racing past the sphere, very cool and impressive. Yeah. Having, vaguely interactive thing happening on the sphere mid-race, cool. These are cool things that are happening.
But if they wanted to go cool, if they wanted to go overload cool, they should have raced up one side of the strip, 180 turn, back down the other end, 180 turn, back down the other end. And that would have been Vegas, wouldn't it? Not like darting off round the back of, again, like underneath or past a Top Golf and then round the back of a Burger King and a Buc-ee's petrol station and all this other stuff. I don't know. But then again, the old circuits, you could argue, you just say, well, you're just racing in the middle of a field, aren't you? I mean, there's not really much going on over there. So at least you've got like a tapas restaurant to drive past.
I don't mind street circuits. I think they offer a nice point of difference as part of the calendar. So when you're going from a really flowing track and then all of a sudden you're at Singapore next week, I like that challenge that presents. Because then that is a very different skill set. And we know someone like Checo does very well at street circuits, and he's very good at that. That's a great skill that he has. And I like to, if we're going to go a little bit crickety on it, it's like you go and play cricket in India and you've got a skill set that's very good for there. Yep. And then you maybe go and play in Australia and you get found out a little bit or vice versa. And I think that's fine if over the space of a 24-race season, there are maybe 5 of them. So we have 4 normal races, street circuit lottery, 4 normal, normal is harsh. The track actually looks okay. I've seen a couple of these early render, where people have put it in a sim or a Assetto Corsa or whatever, and seen a couple of laps around it. Compared to what those early races around Las Vegas look like, and those early renders, it looks better than that. It looks like there's a bit more to the track when you don't realize that you're racing around a warehouse or whatever. So I'm not actually as concerned about the layout itself, and I'm sure it's been designed by someone whose sole job is to design, race tracks, and it's probably been through AI and all the rest of it. So it probably ticks the boxes that a good new track does. It's just
where are they going to overtake?
How we've gotten there. You never know, do you? You never know.
Literally looks like, I'm looking at the map now, kind of looks like there might be an overtaking option into turn 1.
There's a couple of quite hard braking zones into chicanes, aren't there?
I think it's going to be one line though.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be
interesting to see. I mean, people thought that Vegas was going to be shit racing, and that actually weren't fine. True. So I will give it 2026. I don't have to be happy that it's happening. Also, what I will say, and I'll get on my grandstand about this, bloody Barcelona That's my best track in F1 23 on the old sim racing rig, isn't it?
Gone now.
So
Dead.
that needs to stay in the calendar. We can have Madrid as well, but I need Barcelona to stay because that's the one track that I feel confident in. So I have slight selfish reasons, but
It's never going to come back, though.
oh no, if it goes,
Catalonia will never come back. So if Spain have a Grand Prix for the future past this Madrid contract, it will just go to another part of Madrid or another city.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, after 2 years of not having Formula One, Barcelona, I probably still hold the MotoGP, so it will still have a certain license. But, I mean, Spain and a lot of Southern Europe isn't exactly the most affluent place in the world. They're not going to be able to maintain that to the standard that's going to be required. And it's going to end up falling down into a lower category of FIA safety ratings, and Formula One, there's a chance would never come back. Yeah. I know we've been going for 55 minutes, and I don't really want to go for longer than an hour because it's quite a long time for a podcast, isn't it? Particularly for a debut one. But my only real concern is I do feel there needs to be I feel like there needs to be a guardian when it comes to Formula One. And I understand like DTS has done brilliantly for the global reach of the sport. And a long time whilst I was watching it, Formula One, if I was at school, for example, and I'd be, what did you do at the weekends? Like, I watched the Formula One. But the thing is, you'd have to say it like, I watched the Formula One at the weekend, and it was really good because Michael Schumacher did a double overtake into the air, and it had that kind of vibe about it. It doesn't have that anymore. It's got you in it. You're a fan now. It is sexy again. You only have to see the drivers.
Job that they've done.
Pardon?
The rebrand job that they've done.
Incredible.
Is very strong, and I think Liberty gets a little bit credit for that.
You can't chop out the history because they never would have had a sport to have rebranded in the first place. And my worry is, at what point does Silverstone move to London? And at what point does Monza move to Milan? And at what point does there's so few left. I mean, Hungary would just fall off the calendar, as would Spa, because I mean, you're not going to take that to Antwerp, are you, or Brussels? Yeah. That's going to end up in like Dallas, or it's going to end up in Los Angeles.
Well, they've just trademarked the Chicago Grand Prix, haven't they?
Yeah, precisely. You might as well just have like Mario Kart boxes just plonking up on the track as well for people to drive through and leave bananas.
What you're describing now is Formula E, so.
Well, yeah, all right, fair enough. I don't like that much either, to be fair.
No, and I think it is a very strong point. Obviously, I come into it differently. I've not known the previous one there, but even then, I would prefer to watch a Brazil, a Silverstone. The Red Bull Ring produces quite good racing because it's testing different kinds of abilities and corner types and stuff like that, even on a really short circuit. Yeah. And I find the racing easy to follow on those, as well as a newer fan trying to keep track of who's at what corner. If you're watching like a quali lap around any of the new group GPs through like Saudi or any of those areas, like the only reason I know roughly where they are on the track is I know that a lap is going to be about 1 minute 20, and it says they're 40 seconds through the lap, so I know he's got about a third to go. That's my only way of keeping track on that, because otherwise ad boards and crash fencing looks very similar in turn one.
So do 90-degree left and right hand corners, don't they?
Yeah, as where when you've got slightly wider shots or you've got more points of interest alongside the track, racing around Canada, for example, you know where they are all the time because you can see points of interest alongside the track. Same with Australia. Yeah. So, I'm sure that Stefano will hear us and will go, I'll sort it, lads. I think he will contact lapdownpod@gmail.com to say, dear sirs, I took note of your opinions on the pod, and VCARB are out, and so are the street tracks.
Yeah. You never know. Maybe we are the guardians that Formula One needs. Who knows?
There it is.
Anyway, that was fun.
Hey, we're off and running. We are off and running with takes and opinions that nobody asked for, but they're getting them anyway. And this is us. I think words. I think the plan is loose at this stage, isn't it? With the pod and timelines, we'll do a little bit of race reaction stuff, and we'll react to some stuff through the year. There's not necessarily a real rigid schedule locked in with it, or even a real rigid plan, or indeed a plan of any description. We're going to chat about F1 because we want to chat about F1. And if you'd like to chat about F1 with us, then please do. Let's have those conversations that perhaps people wanted to have, or would have if they had mates that were into F1 down the pub, but that maybe don't get to, and we'll enjoy 2024 together as Max runs away with it and has won it by Silverstone.
Can't wait. I'm so excited.
If you do want to get in touch, lapdownpod@gmail.com, lapdownpod on Twitter, Insta, TikTok. Send us a message on there. Send us an email. Let's have a chat about Formula One. Hey, Dan, good chatting.
Tasty. Have fun, mate.
Bye.